Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, and I would say that this brewery are known mainly for their New England hazy IPAs and their big fruity juicy sours, the Berliner Weisses, the Goses and things like this. The beer that we're going to have a look at today though is the last in a three-part release, I guess we could call it, and I have actually tasted this beer before, but the camera messed up the file, so I ordered a new one. And then I'm kind of doing a re-review of this one. I don't remember too much what it tasted like, but I do remember that it was a nice beer. So I can at least guarantee you for this review that we're going to be having a look at a nice beer. But hopefully it makes for an interesting review for you guys. I'm certainly curious to try it again, and hopefully you guys enjoy this one. So let's get cracking. For this review then, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get that Gothenburg catchphrase in when we're reviewing the Gothenburg beers because it is just channel tradition these days. And for this review we are going to return to DuckPond Brewing, who were of course known previously as Microphone Bryggeriet. So this particular beer is called the Ugly. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this beer was released as part of the local Småskalig assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for May of 2021. I reordered this one sometime in the middle of the month because this was one of the first ones I filmed actually from my box that I got before, and then I don't know what happened. The camera decided it was going to mess up the file. So yeah, unfortunately lost my original review of this one, but I wanted to make sure I got a video of this beer out there. But yeah, another 8% New England double IPA from these guys, and this comes on the back of the release of the Good, which I believe was released in March, the Bad, which was released in April, and now we've got this one, the Ugly, which was released in May. So a little bit of a tribute to Clint Eastwood, I guess we could say, the Good, the Bad and the Ugly. So yeah, I do still need to watch that film. I've never actually seen it, if memory serves me correctly, but yeah, something to look at for the future. But again, another New England hazy double IPA from DuckPond Brewing, and as I said earlier, I would recommend this brewery if you're into the big juicy fruity sours or the New England hazy IPAs. Always cool to review new beers from these guys, and I think it's about time that we get cracking with this one then. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from DuckPond Brewing before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future because this is one of the breweries that I keep an eye on. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about DuckPond Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So DuckPond Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, were previously known as Microphone Bryggeriet, or the Microphone Brewery as it would translate into English, and this company is the brainchild of Nikola Sarsevich, who is a singer and songwriter for the band Millencolin, whom have been making music since 1993. But the band was originally based in Örebro, out to the west of Stockholm, and they took a break, and at this point Nikola moved over to Gothenburg. But in 2013 he began homebrewing with his friend Christian Silva while he was studying international marketing in Hovde, and they were just brewing very small 20-litre batches together. And then a bit later on Nikola went down to Berlin in Germany for a 2-week brewing course. After this they started the company officially together, and it was based for a while in Nikola's house, and at this stage it was brewing 200-litre batches. But a little bit later on, having grown their name a little bit under the Microphone Bryggeriet moniker, they changed the name of the company in the summer of 2019, and the main idea behind doing this was that Microphone Bryggeriet was a little bit difficult to spell for international buyers and things like this, and it was a bit difficult for for people to remember, essentially, in that sense. So they decided to go with a more kind of anglicised name. But they've been working to increase their output and international sales over the last few years, and in 2019 they produced around 70,000 litres. And these guys are also one of the co-owners of the Wizard Brewing brand, along with Marion Dagens, who are a very well respected sour beer brewery in Gothenburg, of course. But originally they were producing most of their beer at Popels and then some of it at Odd Island as well, but they now have their own premises in Kungsten in Gothenburg, and they've just hired Magnus Laurén as their new brewer. But as of June 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, there's 35 beers have been produced under the DuckPond name, and I think there was another 25 or so were originally produced under the Microphone Bryggeriet name as well. So I think in total these guys have produced in the region of 60 different beers. Like I said to you, mainly it's the New England Hazies and the big fruity, big juicy fruity Berliner Weisses and Goses and things that you'll find from this brewery, but they have released a few other things on occasion as well. So definitely check out those if you get the chance. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about DuckPond Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is quite plain, I guess, compared to some of the other DuckPond stuff we've had before. You can see the can is sweating a little bit since I've taken it out the fridge. The fridge must be a bit too cold. But yeah, as I said, an 8% New England Hazy IPA. Imperial Double IPA, whatever you want to call it. This one is hopped with Idaho 7 from what I understand. So Idaho 7's a lovely hop, I think about 14-15% alpha acid, you know, lovely soft tropical fruits like apricots, papayas, and you know, a big juicy mango from memory. So yeah, I'm really curious to see again how this one it turns out, actually, because I remember it was pretty nice. So yeah, 440ml can. I think this one cost 50 Swedish kroner, so that works out about €5, about £4.50 sterling, and I guess somewhere in the region of, you know, $5.75, $6 American. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this one has in store for us. And again, you get that big juicy fruity note coming off of it as you open it up. Now, one of the things you need to watch for with New England IPAs a little bit, or that you can watch for, I should say, you don't need to do it, but one of the things you can watch for with New England IPAs, you'll find that when they get a little bit older, you can feel that the malt base, in a sense, kind of thickens up. You get a little bit more of the kind of, you can feel that the wheat and the oat kind of thickens up a wee bit, and I'm curious to see whether we can pick that up in this beer a little bit more, because I remember this one being, I remember it having a sort of oaty character that came out a little bit more as you went further into the aftertaste. So I'm curious to see whether that's changed a little bit in this one. But yeah, just checking that this is lined up. My OCD annoys me when the can isn't lined up with the camera, of course. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, when we've poured it, it poured with about a quarter finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That's faded away to be a very, very kind of thin foamy layer. There's a nice big foamy ring around the edge of the glass. But in terms of colour, this beer, I would say this one, it's a very kind of rich yellow. I think it appears a little bit brighter to you guys on the camera than it does to me with the naked eye, but this one's a very kind of deep, sort of rich yellow colour actually. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and in terms of the level of haze in this one, it is, you know, it's not the soupiest and gloopiest one we've come across, but it's certainly getting towards that kind of soupy or gloopier part of the New England spectrum. So remember, the colour of these beers depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. Those determine the magnitude of your colour. 2, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker colour of beer. And you know, adjuncts and barrel aging, of course, play a role in determining the colour of your beer as well. But when it comes to a New England IPA, those factors are not in play. When it comes to the level of haze in these things, it usually depends on the oat and the wheat content. The yeast can play a role as well, but you know, that varies from brewery to brewery, I have to say. So yeah, I think this one looks as if it's got a good bit of wheat and a good bit of oat in it, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like I say, I remember this beer leaning a little bit more towards the oaty side of things in the aftertaste, which was good. But yeah, in terms of a New England IPA, nothing really surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. It certainly just looks very, very nice. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one then and see how we get on. Well, yeah, you can smell a little bit that the oats and the wheat have kind of thickened out in this one. You can smell it a little bit. It's almost like they just kind of, if you kind of envision it, it's almost just like the oats and the wheat kind of clump together a little bit more and just thicken up, and you can smell that a little bit in this beer, but it still has that kind of softer bready thing, and I do remember the softer bready part out of this beer from before as well. So yeah, as I've told you in previous reviews, in my opinion, there's 6 different directions a New England IPA can take. It can go in the more kind of yeasty, farmhousey sort of direction. It can be sort of rye and sort of rye leaning and kind of grainy. It can have a good little bit. It can be sort of rye leaning and grainy. It can be a little bit more kind of wheaty and bready, oaty and creamy. Barley malt leaning and bready, and of course you can get them being a little bit more kind of brown sugary orientated as well. But yeah, the aroma out of this one, I think, is very, very nice actually. So yeah, the aroma out of this is you can smell on the malty side of things, it's got a good bit of potency to it. You can smell it's a little bit boozier, and I don't remember it smelling quite as boozy when I had it last time, but yeah, you can smell a wee bit of the kind of boozier character out of this one. But straight away with this beer, you will notice, as I say, you've got a soft kind of white bready backbone to it. You can smell a little bit of that bread crust in there. You can smell a good bit of wheaty bite out of this one as well, and I think the wheaty bite is a little bit more kind of pungent than I remember last time, and you can also smell that big smooth oaty character in this one. So yeah, you can smell that nice oaty note, and it still is giving you that sort of slightly sweet character that I remember picking up from before, but you're also getting a wee bit of brown sugar in this one. You can smell a sort of Werther's Original type quality. You can smell a little bit of a there's a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original type quality in there, that kind of butter candy, brown sugary sort of thing. There is a little bit of that coming out in this one as well, for sure, which is nice. But yeah, you can smell, I think the malt base does smell as if it's kind of thickened up a wee bit, and as I say, that's something that I've noticed in a few slightly older New England IPAs that I've had before. But yeah, the aroma of this one is still very, very nice, I have to say, but I think you can smell a wee bit more booziness in this beer when it gets that wee bit older. I think it must have been in the can, I'm guessing it must have been in the can about 7-8 weeks, something like that now. So yeah, it still should be okay. It still should taste pretty good, but just interesting to make these observations, I guess we could say. But on the hoppy side of things, it is still pretty much as you would expect. So there's a wee bit of earthiness in this one for sure. You get a nice little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity. I say a little bit of floral aromaticity, but you can smell there's a big pungent floral aromaticity to this one. Remember that New England IPAs are dependent on late edition hops in comparison to West Coast IPAs, which depend on the early edition hops. Early edition hops give you the bitterness and the green, whereas the late edition hops give you the big juicy fruity characters, and that should be obvious in these ones. But yeah, it's the green component of this one. It's got a lovely big floral aromatic pungency to it. There's a big kind of juicy fruity component backing it up, and of course you have that nice lighter grassy quality to this one. I'd say that overall the green component leans towards the floral side of things for sure, but on the fruity part of this beer, and this is where Idaho 7 really shines, it always gives you these big soft tropical fruity notes. You're getting a lot of different stuff out of this one, which is great. So for me, you can smell a little bit of a nice juicy passion fruit to this one. It's not too pungent, of course. To me, the passion fruit comes across as quite juicy. There's a big sort of mango-y quality to the beer, and you're also getting these, apricot-y. You're getting a sort of apricot-y papaya type thing out of this one as well, which is very, very nice. There's not. I'd say yeah. It's for me. It's the apricot. The papaya, and there's definitely a bit of an oily pineapple in this one as well. I'm picking up a wee bit more of a kind of pineapple-y note towards the front of the nose. But Idaho 7, as I say, is always known for its kind of big sort of soft, kind of tropical fruits. That's what Idaho 7 is really kind of renowned for, I would say. And you're getting that in abundance with this beer. The bit of passion fruit, bit of a kind of juicy mango, and then it's the softer apricots, papayas, and softer apricots, papayas, and kind of I would say and a more oily pineapple that comes out of this one as well. So yeah, a lovely smelling beer, this one. Let's get the rest of it in the glass, and I think it's about time that we have a taste of this one then. Looking forward to this. I love this brewery, DuckPond Brewing. So if you haven't tried these guys already, I think I forgot to show you the badge for this brewery, the symbol for this brewery. If you haven't tried these guys before, then they are definitely worth having a look at. And I think I've got another beer arriving in the June Systembolaget box from these guys. But yeah, let's get stuck into this one. So this is the Ugly, the last in the 3-part release of the Good, the Bad and the Ugly from DuckPond Brewing in Gothenburg. Unfortunately, I missed the Good, but I did manage to get the Bad and the Ugly. So that's sometimes how life goes. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Ooh. Now that is still pretty damn good, I have to say. It's a bit more oily. It does feel a little bit more oily than I remember. But yeah, it's whenever I drink one of these DuckPond IPAs, it's just always good. It just is always good. So yeah, I would say it does strike me as being a bit more oily than I remember at this time. And in honesty, one thing I have to say is I don't like, honestly, I don't really like doing re-reviews of beers. I like my reviews to be the first genuine reaction to these beers. So yeah, this one, it is just a good beer that I wanted to make sure I had a video on, but yeah, it does feel a little bit strange to do a kind of re-review because I'll always be trying to compare it to my first review and trying to remember what I thought of it back then, rather than just giving you a kind of straight up initial reaction to it. That's what the whole channel is kind of all about in a sense. But yeah, first impression of this one is, as I say, it strikes me as being a more kind of oily leaning New England IPA. But it is, as always with DuckPond, very, very well crafted. I think you definitely can feel in the malt base that it's a little bit more kind of thicker and clumpy in a sense compared to what I remember of it before, but it still tastes pretty damn good, I have to say. So yeah, let's try and break this flavour down for you a little bit more and explain it a wee bit more in depth. So straight away across the middle of your palate there, you can feel that nice soft kind of but still quite crisp white bready quality. That is fine. That is blanketing the middle of the tongue. If you move forward, or if you go to either end of that middle third of your palate, you will get a few little bread crusty elements there, but underneath it's a soft white bready note in this one. You can feel a little bit of a kind of smooth wheaty quality sitting on top of that, and then you can feel the nice kind of the slightly more thick oaty layer coming out of the beer. If you go right down the middle line of your palate, you can feel that nice big thick oaty quality, and it works very, very well. So yeah. So with the oaty side of things, as you go down that middle line of your palate, you can feel it sort of thickens up a wee bit, and it just kind of spreads over to the side of your palate. You can feel the oats kind of spreading out towards the side of the palate with this one, which I think is really, really nice, and it works very, very. It gives the beer just a nice kind of thickness and smoothness, if you like. But I do like the fact that you can get that soft white bready character underneath, and then you get the more oaty thickness sitting on top of it. But in the dead centre of your palate, you'll get a little circle that sits there, and that's where you're getting the kind of Werther's Original sort of brown sugary note out of the beer. You can feel that sort of butter candy element coming out of it, and it's a big, that that at 8% ABV, this New England double IPA will have a little bit of booziness behind it, and you can pick that up here, but this one covers it quite well. I think the booziness, it does feel a little bit more pronounced than I remember it from being before, but it does have that lovely sweet component right in the dead centre of your palate where that comes out. So yeah, But yeah, the way everything kind of pieces together in this beer, I think, is very, very nice. It's the oaty smoothness, I think, comes out a little bit more, and it starts to develop a bit of sweetness into the aftertaste. I remember that from before, but you've still got a nice kind of crisp white bready character just sitting underneath. But yeah, big kind of smooth oaty qualities on top, and then you've got that Werther's Original type sweetness to the beer, which is just great. I really, really like that. But yeah, the middle component of your beer in this one, the middle third I should say, it's nothing unexpected. It does feel a bit thicker than I remember from this beer before, but it's still really, really very, very nice actually. So yeah, on that border region between middle third and back third of your palate then, you can feel a little bit of a kind of more bready build up there. There's a wee bit of a kind of dried bread crusty element coming out of it as well, which is kind of interesting. And then on the back third of your palate, you can feel a nice kind of smooth white bready note underneath, and also a wee bit of you can feel a little bit of bitiness from the wheat, which is interesting. So you get a bit more of that bitey wheaty quality towards the back third of your palate, and I always feel that that's necessary in a big 8% DuckPond, a big 8% New England like this. You do need a bit of wheaty bitiness to kind of balance the boozy side of the beer as well. So you definitely get that on that back third of your palate too. But sitting on top of the back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is a little bit taller. So you can feel that nice, as I say, you can feel that nice sort of wheaty smoothness in there, and a bit of the bitiness towards the back. Then on top of that, you get the taller yeasty components out of the beer. So yeah, the flavour, when you start at the back of the palate, you can feel the flavour is a little bit taller, and as you come further forward, it condenses down a wee bit. Then as you go into the middle third of your palate, it's really quite squashed together, and the flavours are really nice and kind of concentrated in a sense. But the malty side of this beer, I think, goes together very nicely, but it does feel that it's thickened up a wee bit in the weeks since I last had this beer. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, which should be the focus when it comes to an IPA, in the back corners of the palate you do get a little touch of earthiness there, but quite quickly this one it becomes big and floral very quickly after the earthiness, and that spreads all the way forward towards the front corners of your palate. Then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy in a sense, and you do get a wee bit of a zesty kind of quality coming off it as well. The green component in this beer is pretty nice, and one thing I have noticed in West Coast IPAs, I'm not so sure about New England's, but the green component does get a little bit almost stronger the longer the beer is aged a little bit. So I can't comment on that. I can't remember, to be quite honest with you, but you do get a nice big deep floral aromatic quality to this one. I wouldn't describe it as spicy, more kind of big and deep, but round the front curve of the palate it's most definitely a little bit lighter and grassy. But yeah, the grassy side of this beer though is very nice. It just adds a little bit of zest to the beer as well. You do have a wee bit of a citrusy, zesty kind of thing on the front kind of tip of your tongue with this beer. But front third of your palate is very nice. On that border region between front and middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of a kind of bready build up in there, a wee bit of a bread crust again. Then the base of the front third of your palate is a nice smooth, you can feel a little bit of the oaty smoothness in there and a bit of the kind of white bready quality, and then on top of that you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. And I really like how that side of the beer goes together as well. But yeah, the front third of your palate is nice in this one. But towards the back of that front third of your palate then, there is a wee bit of a pungent passion fruit to this one. I don't remember that from before. I remember it being a bit softer, but yeah, there is a wee bit of a kind of pungent passion fruit coming out of the beer. But as you move further forward, the passion fruit sort of fades away a little bit. You get more of a kind of, sort of mango-y type quality coming out of the beer, definitely a bit more of an oily mango. Then as you reach the kind of middle of that front third of your palate, there's a soft apricot in there, there's a wee bit of a kind of papaya kind of thing sitting on top of it, and then as you reach the kind of front tip of your tongue, I want to say there's a wee touch of a lemon limey type quality just behind the front grassy notes of the beer. But on top of that, there's more of a kind of oily pineapple type vibe coming out of the beer. So this one really gives you all the kind of soft tropical fruit notes you would expect of the Idaho 7. It's a lovely hop, that. I really do like Idaho 7. But it's got a wee bit, this one, it feels like it's got a wee bit of a more kind of citrusy, zesty kind of component to it than I remember from before. But regardless, it's still a very nice and very drinkable New England double IPA. This one, it does feel a little bit more kind of boozy and thick compared to what I've had previously, but yeah, it works out very, very nicely. So yeah, this beer gets a big thumbs up from me in that sense. So yeah, I think I've really enjoyed how this one goes about its business. So yeah, I have to say it's held up, even though it's a few weeks older than it is now. I think I'm maybe drinking this beer a month older than I filmed the last video. It's still held up pretty well. So this is an interesting experiment, if you like, in that sense. But I was still raging at my camera at the time when it destroyed the file. It just didn't record. I don't know exactly. It made like the base file, but then just didn't put any data in it. I don't know what happened. GoPros, not a great fan of them, I have to say. But yeah, it's a very interesting beer, this one. In the space of a month, it still holds up pretty well. So I guess that's the take-home message from this one. But yeah, let's round off the review then with the mouthfeel of this beer. So overall, I would say that this beer is pushing towards the top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth. It's got a really nice big sort of, I feel that this beer has a little bit of a kind of creamy vibe to it, but at the same time it's really oily, so I like that about this one. In terms of hoppy bitterness and things, I think it's about 40, 30, 40 IBUs. I think you do need just a little touch more bitterness with the New Englands. Usually 30 is the standard, but I think you need a wee touch more bitterness with them when you take them up to the Imperial double strength. So 40 IBUs, I would guess, with this one. And the fruity notes, like I said, are very smooth and very juicy. So I really enjoyed how that side of things has gone together with this beer as well. So yeah, this beer gets a big thumbs up from me. It's still in good condition, as I say. I do wish that I got to try the good. I don't know why I didn't get the good, actually. I think I got a few of their sours instead, if memory serves me correctly. But I do wish I'd managed to pick up the good IPA. But yeah, the bad and the ugly have certainly been very, very nice. Who knows, maybe they'll re-release them as a triple pack or something like that. That would be a good way to go about it. But yeah, this one turned out to be very nice. It's aged well over the month since I had it, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. So yeah, looking forward to my next DuckPond IPA. And hopefully you guys enjoyed my my take on this one. So let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from DuckPond Brewing. And as I said earlier, I would recommend these guys if you like a good New England hazy or a big fruity juicy sour. Check out this brewery, check out my social media, all these kind of things. This one was the ugly, an 8% New England hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from DuckPond Brewing in Kingston in Gothenburg. Slange, skull, cheers, and see you guys on the next review.